All right, guys. First of all, Mazal Tov to everybody. Today is a very, very special day because it's Sunday. So, all right, it was nice seeing you. See you tomorrow. It's not something that we get to do every day, and we are doing today. And I'll speak at the end, bli neder. It's not something that we do every day. Today we're finishing Masechet Chagiga. First of all, we did it a few months ago or a month ago. But now guys are actually finishing it together as a collective, and together with that, it's also they finished a whole bunch of guys here finished Seder Moed, which is not something to be taken lightly. So with no further ado, I would like to introduce to you some of you guys from the morning know my dear friend Yerachmiel, which I know already for about say at least 25 or 28 years or something like that, something like this. Yeah, we're getting old. But Yerachmiel is a dear friend of mine. We will learn together. We're learning here in the morning again. And again, without any further ado, I would like to call Rabbi Yerachmiel. Please share with us some thoughts on the matter.
Don't clap too quickly. You might be disappointed. Rabbi Golan asked me to speak to all of you, so he must feel that you need some punishment. So I'll give you a little dose of it tonight. I don't know if any of you know me or see me around other than coming here. I'll give you a little bit of a background so you get a little bit of a flavor of who I am and what I am. Currently, I'm kind of semi-retired. I work a little bit in finance and some other. I dabble in some other pursuits. I also do a weekly. I send out a weekly letter, so to speak, to family, friends, and people who have, and actually some rabbis who I go over basically the halakhas of Shabbos. I think it's one of the areas where I feel there's a lot of weakness in a lot of people having a lot of mistakes when it comes to Shabbos. And I was asked to add other things onto it. So part of what I have on there is Musa and Halacha, and what that is basically. If you really study halacha, is how many volumes of Shulchan Aruch are there?
5.
Yeah. There's also another one. There's a 6th. Okay, that 6th is basically all the white pages, all the white writings within the Shulchan Aruch. There's many things you can learn, Musa, that you can learn from just simple things that you think is just a simple halacha, favoring your right to your left or whatever that may be. You'd be surprised what you can learn from that. I think you're finishing up Hagiga, right? So it's very interesting in the past parsha. It talks about all the mysteries of the Mishkan. The Or Chaim talks about it, and he talks about that Rabbi Kiva was able to, from the Targum, was able to derive 300 halachot just out of the crowns on the letter Lamed, just the letter Lamed. So it just gives us a flavor of just how little we really do know. So I finished. I've gone through the Shas at least a couple of times from beginning to end, at least 2.5 times. I have an in-depth charusa I go with. We're doing Shabbos right now, and we've been on that sector for about 6 months, and we're maybe up to Chaf Beis, Amid Beis, I think it is. So only about 22 dafim. But that doesn't tell you about me though too much. So let me tell you a little bit about me. Myself, my wife, and my 4 children are all Gerim, all converts. Okay. I remember having an argument with a friend of mine who was Russian, and I told him that I was a ger, and it took me half an hour to convince him that I was. Okay, he told me I was a liar. I said, "Why would I lie about something like that?" So, but I want to tell you how I got there. Okay, everybody has a path. Everybody has a derech to get to a certain point. What does it says at the tree of knowledge, right? Chadas was in the middle of the Gan Eden. Middle of the Gan Eden. Why is it in the middle? Why not at one point? Why the north, the south, east? Why in the middle? It was in the middle so that everybody, no matter what where you come from, you'll always have equal access to the Torah, equal access to attach yourself to the Ribono Shel Olam. So, most of you may not believe this, but I grew up in a family that was had nothing to do with Judaism. Couldn't be further from Judaism. I grew up in a neighborhood that was, I think we had a couple of Jews that they were so assimilated that other than maybe having Hanukkah, there was really literally no difference between my lifestyle and their lifestyle. But as I got older, I got accepted into a place, you probably never heard of it, but I wouldn't expect you to. I was accepted into Concordia College. If anybody knows who Concordia College is, very few do. It's in Bronxville. It's a seminary college. I was accepted there, and for whatever reason, things didn't work out for me to go. Okay, I didn't realize the Ribono Shel Olam was guiding my footsteps. So I didn't go. So I wound up getting a job, whatever. I took the Coast Guard test. I took the test, and I was a bunch of guys in the room. I was the first one finished with the test. I got a call about 3 weeks later from the captain of the Coast Guard, stating to me that, Mr. Friecker, is this you? I said, yes, it is. He said, I just want to let you know that we haven't had a score this high in the Coast Guard, and we can't even remember. So we're going to offer you whatever you want in the Coast Guard. Please sign up with us. So I apologized to him. I said I took it on a dare from somebody. He said he told me he dared me to take the test, and I said okay, I'll take the test. He said, well, please, you realize that we don't get tests like this from people. I'm telling you, if whatever you want, just name it. Right. So I apologized profusely. I said, no, I'm sorry, I can't. And so life went on. And then I met a couple of people I got to meet, and one was this. He was like a, what can I say, like a not a Jews for Jesus type of thing. But he was, messianic type stuff, as maybe you could say it. And he had some books, some svarim. And the svarim were by an author named, and I'm sure you've all heard of him, Mam Loez. And he didn't want them anymore, so I thumbed through them. And I said, listen, I'll buy them from you. Okay? I like books, I like to read, I like religious stuff. I said, I'll buy it. So I did. I bought the books for him. And I went home and I started to read. And you could say, well, you read Torah, man, you're Chayiv Misa at that time. I was, but I didn't know. So I started reading. And I read, and then I read it over again. And then I read it again, and again, and again. And I kept reading it, okay? And every time I read it, I was stunned at I don't know how to tell you this, but other than it was so powerfully truthful to me, okay, that I couldn't stop reading. I had to know more. So at the time, I had kind of fell out of favor with Christianity. I'll explain to you why. I think it's a religion, and I don't hope I'm not offending anybody here. But it's a religion for idiots. You have to be brain dead to really believe in that religion. There's just too many really idiotic things that you have to believe in order to attach yourself to that religion. So there was a lot of things I read in it that didn't make any sense to me. It just, God praying to himself, and then God, their God was being tempted. I said, who wants a God that's tempted? I don't need a God like that. So, and then it's telling me, I gotta be really impressed that God's perfect. I'm not impressed that God's perfect. I'm not impressed that our God's perfect in that sense. I expect him to be perfect. It's the man, is man perfect? That's a weak perfected, but I expect him to be perfect, right? So, what happened was I started to drift away from Christianity, and I started to become more and more attached to wanting to know more about Judaism. So one day, my parents were over, and my mother started to espouse. She was kind of born again, whatever you want to call them. So she's sitting there, and she's at my table, and my father's sitting there, and my mother goes to me, and she starts talking about Pat Robinson. This shows you how this dates back, that he was trying to run for presidency, and I said, I hope he never wins. So she goes to me, how could you say something like that? She goes, don't you believe that Yashka is the Lord and Savior? I said, absolutely not. So at that moment, my mother sprung out of her chair like a rocket, and she started like a whirling dervish, started pacing my kitchen, and I sat there real calmly. My wife knows me very well. She knows oh, here he goes. So my father goes to my wife, goes, no, he didn't mean it the way he said it. So I turned to my father, he says, excuse me, I meant it exactly the way I said it. Now, the reason I said that is because if you're going to profess it something, if you're going to be something, you have to profess it all the way. You cannot leave any doubt in anybody's mind who and what you are. Okay? And at that moment, I was letting the world, at this time my parents, but I was letting the world know, no. I have nothing to do with that. I have no connection to that whatsoever. Okay? And they asked me, what do you connect yourself? What are you doing? I said, I'm going to probably connect myself to Judaism. Well, you could have said I was going to be a sadist. You could have said I was some horrible, evil person. But I knew that this was what I had to be. This was nothing, no doubt in my mind. My mother-in-law was found out, and she's a more calmer person. And she confronted me, and she asked me, what are my intentions? So I said to her that what I wanted to do. So she said to me, listen, would you please reconsider your position? So I know my mother-in-law very well, and I said to her, so I'll make you a deal. Okay, I'll make you a deal. So I said, here's the deal. I will look at it again, but the deal is this. I'm going to take the approach, and I'm going to talk to you like I would talk to you, not like talk to her this way. I said, I'm going to take the approach of Avraham Avinu. I'm going to look at everything, and I'm going to make my decision from there. And I says, whatever decision I make, I says, here's my deal. Whatever decision I make, you're not allowed to ever say another word to me again about it. That's it. This is the last time. So I said, we have a deal. So she jumped out thinking that she was going to pray, and I was going to see the light and everything else. I already made my decision. I already did what I said that I was going to do before I even talked to her. So when it came to the end, she only said one thing to me. She says, if you do this, please do one thing for me. I said, what's that? She goes, make sure that if you do it, you be Orthodox. It was a bizarre statement to me. She was a very proud grandmother, because each one of my children, my daughter is married to a Boston Chassid. I was very close to the Boston Rabbi, very, very close to the Boston Rabbi, in fact. In fact, he was the one that called me and asked if he could match my daughter up to one of his Chassidim, and I was more than happy to agree to that. Each one of my sons went to Yeshiva. My one son went to Chaim Berlin, one and graduated. And then he went to Shar Yeshiv afterwards to follow up on more study. My other son went to Shar Yeshiv. My other son went to Yeshiva Far Rockaway, and then went to Yeshiva in Eretz Israel. My daughter went to seminary and lives in Yerushalayim with my grandson, who is Rabbi, and my other grandson, who was Rebbe in Yeshiva. And I have another one who he's also hopefully going to either go to become a rabbi or a Rebbe. We're not sure what he's going to do yet, but he's on his way. Let me give you just a couple of thoughts from experience. Speaking from the other side, okay, I could tell you that there is absolutely no comparison. There's nothing even close In fact, me saying this is almost an insult to the Svarim and the teachings that we have. Nothing. Not even close. The depth of it is, I just can't tell you how simplistic other religions are, how shallow and how lack of depth it is to it. I can't tell you the beauty of various Musa, what it teaches us, and how it draws out the beauty. A priest one time confronted me, and I very much enjoy talking to Christians because I enjoy twisting their insides out when we speak, because they really don't know anything, so it's very easy to have fun with them. But the lack of responsibility that other religions take when it comes to the character traits and the responsibilities of a human being is profoundly different from what we have. Okay, what's expected of us is different. We're a very unique and beautiful people. I said when they was telling me about this person was trying to convert me back to coming to be a Christian, I had some fun with them, and I said, why would I want a God that was tempted? I said, do you think that I find that? I said, I expect God to be perfect. I expect God to be all loving. I expect God to be that. I expect all those attributes of God. But when I see those attributes in a human being, in a Jew, then I know. Then there's something to talk about. Then that's something to talk about. See, that's what really kind of drove me. It's the fact that a human being could engender the attributes that God himself has, that his children can emulate him. There's a beautiful book that I'm sure you've all heard it, so I'm not going to tell you anything you don't know. But it's Talmud Devorah. It talks about the attributes, the 13 attributes of Hashem, and how to emulate those in yourself. It's a tough book. In fact, I bought probably about 7 volumes, and I gave it to various people. I gave it to them specifically because I know they have issues. They're bitter about certain things in their life, about people, about whatever. And I gave them the book to read in order to, in a sense, take them out of their own prison. Read the book. Don't harbor these things. But it's that type of book, that type of sefer that you look and you say, this is what we're expected of to be as Jews. Okay? Your ability to be whomever you want is phenomenal. I once talked about the difference between Bilam and Moshe. Now you could say, well, I'm not talking about moral. Okay? I'm not talking about moral. Morally, they were, couldn't be further apart in the universe. But I'm talking about just in their way of thinking. And I'll give you a thought about this. Moshe, when he saw this phenomena, this pella of a bush burning and not being consumed, what did he do? He had to turn aside and look. I have to go investigate. Why? Why did he have to investigate? Just because he saw a burning bush and it was a neat thing? He turned aside because he knew that if I'm seeing this, there's a reason. There's something I'm supposed to learn from this. This experience was meant for me to see, and I'm supposed to grab everything I can from this experience. And so he did. And he spent 7 days arguing with Hashem whether he's supposed to go and deliver the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim. Let's take Bilam. He was the counterpart, wasn't he? He was the prophet for the Goyim. So what happened with him? So here he is. He's riding his donkey. Okay. By the way, a donkey is a very, very, very interesting animal within all of Tanakh and all of the Torah and through other Goyim. There's a lot of very interesting things, and even Halacha. Donkey has a very interesting place within Jewish literature. I don't have to talk about that. I'll leave that to Rabbi Goen to discuss that with you. But what did he do? He's riding a donkey. He's doing what he's not supposed to be doing. And the donkey starts to talk to him. So starts having a conversation. So what does he do? He starts talking back to the donkey, okay? One jackass talking to another one, okay? And he has a conversation. Now, he doesn't stop and say, hey, wait a minute, donkeys don't talk, okay? And I've known this donkey for a long time, in ways I shouldn't, and what is he talking to me for? No, he starts arguing with the donkey, going back and forth like this is his friend. Not once did he get down and say, wait a minute, there's a donkey, doesn't talk. My donkey certainly didn't talk. Why is this happening to me? The donkey had more common sense and more realization was going on than he did. We see the same thing happening with Abraham and Yitzhak. He took, as they went to the Akedah, they had two people with them, right? So we're told those two people were who?
Yishmael and Eliezer.
What kind of people were they, Ishmael and Eliezer?
Right?
They were the leading goyim of that generation. They were the pristine. They were the top. Eliezer was a great person. He wasn't a slouch. He was a great person. Yet he was told to stay by a donkey. By a donkey. Why? Because he didn't have kedusha guf. Kedusha guf is what you have, what Abraham had, what Yitzhak had. That's what you have. You're special. You're different. The world can't, no matter how great a goy can be, no matter how much he can learn, no matter, he could keep all the mitzvah noach, all he wants. Okay? Shabbat mitzvah noach, he could keep it all he wants. But only you have that special goof. Besides the special neshama. Okay? You only attain these things, these great heights, by what you see all around you. What you have in learning with Rabbi Goen, and whom Baruch you learn with, the Chavusas, and delving into those pages. Like I said, I went through the Shas several times, okay? And I can't tell you, from my perspective, the wealth of infinite. I know that I only have literally a drop of what's really contained in those pages, or what's contained in these books, in these farms that we have around us. Everybody has crossroads. I had a few crossroads that I had to take. Those crossroads took me down a path that I am so very happy to have taken. When I think about every day during Shemona Esrei, when I get to the point of Modim Nachnu, the first thing I get there, I spend a lot of time there. A lot of time. The reason I spend a lot of time there is because how profoundly thankful I am of the decisions that I make. Because if I didn't make that decision, it didn't look so good. Okay, I know what my end would have been, but I made a different decision. I took a decision and stuck with that decision. It wasn't always easy, but I can't even think of not making the decision. In fact, sometimes when I think about it, it scares me. I literally get chills. And I'm just so thankful. I look at my kids, I look at the kids that go around and I see in the streets there, and I said, I could see the kids coming out of high school, and I said, look at it, the next criminals in the United States that are being raised by us. I know that I have a grandson who became a Rebbe, he's a Shokin, that became a Rebbe. Okay, I have another one who's teaching. And I think, look at the blessings that I have because I made a decision, one decision. I'll leave two thoughts with you. I'll finish up with a thought that something I learned from a shir I went to. We know that I started with the Akedah. You know, at the Akedah, it says that Avraham Avinu stretched out his arm, he took the knife and stretched out his arm. So the point is, if he took a knife, what do I need to know that he stretched out his arm? What was that? Why was that necessary? What? I don't have to. Yeah, but if he's there to sacrifice Yitzhak, and he takes the knife, I kind of know what he's going to do with it, right? It's kind of self-explanatory, right?
Show that he followed through.
Determination.
Yeah? Okay, so here's what I learned, and I'd like to impart it to you. Okay, because this is the beauty of what I'm trying to tell you of Torah. This is the beauty of what you have at your fingertips every single minute of the day. It says that Avraham Avinu had so perfected himself. Now let's not forget, this was his 10th test. Okay? And he wasn't a young guy, okay? He was an old man. He was aged. It says that Avraham Avinu had so perfected himself that his body, his very being, knew the will of God. Instinctively, it knew God's will. So when he picked up this knife, guess what happened? His hand didn't want to slaughter Yitzhak. It resisted him. It knew the will of God. The will of God said, I don't want to really check them. I'm just testing Abraham. I'm just testing him. So his arm knew, no, this is not God's will. He doesn't want this to happen. So what did Abraham do? He overcame his chesed. He overcame his own body, who was telling him, no, this is not right. Why? Because God told him to do this. Because the Abishah said, slaughter sacrifice your son to me. That's why it says right after that, it says that an angel, right? So the Malach came to him. That Malach, by the way, was the Malach that was created from that mitzvah, that listening to Hashem. That he was created at that moment. Okay? Every time you do a mitzvah, every time you study a word of Torah, every time you come out with something, guess what, guys? You have another advocate, right? It's not a bad deal. It's a pretty good deal. And he overcame that. And he said, now I know that you fear me. Now I know that you fear Hashem. What do you mean he knows you fear Hashem? That his fear of Hashem even overcame the natural tendency of Avraham to have to be his midah of chesed. So I'll finish with this. I've known Avraham going for many years. I could say with confidence that we're close. I could say with confidence, I've seen him many times at the mikveh. Okay. Okay. It's a very precious thing to have the opportunity to learn. It's a very precious thing because if you look at it and understand that what you see here is the blueprint of creation. The very blueprint of creation. What does that mean? It means that every science, I just wrote something in one of my things I write to people. I wrote about the calculating the moed, okay? The moon, the cycle of the moon. Now, our Rabbanim, our sages, a couple of thousand years ago, figured out what it was. Now, I don't know the exact difference, came out 29 days and somewhat, whatever, seconds. But they also calculated recently using satellites and computers. And the difference between what the Chachamim did and what our satellite imaging today was approximately 2 millionths of an hour difference. 2 millionths of an hour. Well, I could break that down if you wanted to into other terms, but I'll just leave it at that. By the way, they didn't have telescopes. They didn't even have a watch. They didn't have satellites. They had that. And that. That's what they had. And they could get it. By the way, I think that, unfortunately, I think the satellites are 2 millionths of a day off. I think the Chacham got it right. But just to tell you just how phenomenal the wisdom was and how much to appreciate what you are studying every single day. And I'll finish with, remember you're a vessel. Just like fine wine has to go into a a clean and beautiful vessel to keep it pure, to keep it fresh, to keep it from spoiling. So you must do it to yourselves. Okay? It's very important. And it takes more than just going to the mikveh. Okay? So refine your soul, refine who you are, make yourselves a beautiful vessel for the Torah. And if you want any questions, if not, I'll be finished with this. If there's any questions, you can ask. If not, adios amigos, I'll sit down.
Sit down.
Okay.
Ja,